Hi, it's Rob from Permaboss. I was just preparing for a mailing, and what you see in front of me are a bunch of samples. As a matter of fact, it's 650 samples, and it's all embossed, and then with the laser it's cut out. And I thought it would be good to make a video to explain to you what's involved. When you have to decorate any piece of clothing with a laser or with the embossing machine, you never have to hoop it. We have systems set up with laser guide that make it really easy. But when you make samples, we did a time study now, and these are 650 samples. We have to touch them 3 times because basically we had a fleece blanket or fleece material. We cut the blanket and then we put underneath the embossing machine with the backing and did the hit. I'll explain that in a minute. And then maybe divided the blanket up into 4 sections, and once that was done, it was taken to the laser and cut. So it basically took a solid 12 hours, 8 hours one day until 1 o'clock on the next day. And we did 650 pieces. If you did that in your business, take away the 2 extra times you have to handle the product based on you didn't have to cut out the sample and do the things that we had to do exactly, you would cut that time by at least 1/3 if you didn't have the skill and you were new. So either way, you can look at it that it's very difficult to get 650 pieces out of embroidery machines if you have 5 or 6 or 10 or 12 heads in one day with one person. If you did the equation and you charge an average of $350, so if you're doing 12 pieces, you have the setup and you charge probably like $550. But if you did it around the medium, 72, 144 piece orders, you did it for $350 a logo, which is still cheaper than a lot of embroidery. You're doing a 10 or 12 or 14 second hit. That's $2,300 almost in business. And that's one of the reasons that embossing is so profitable for people like you. And I thought, I've got samples to send out that we did a whole series of materials for a client that's serious about the embossing machine. And instead of having to do it over and over and over again, I wanted to maybe go over this and make a video so that you have this as important information. So remember, when we made samples, we're starting off with a big chunk of material, and you've got to manipulate that. So that gets cut up, and then we put the sections in, move it over, move it over, move it over. If you were owning your own business and you're a decorator, then without fail, you've made some mistakes. You've got some broken things that you can use that material, and sometimes on an extra large or 2X shirt, you can get 30, 40 hits out of that. And that's why we encourage you to send that to your best customers to get them something in their hands once a month. So it's important that you are not just watching the video as a potential client or as a client. You have to we practice what we preach. I mean, we send out samples, and we need to get into the minds of the people that are our customers or potential customers until they buy something. The rule is you got to market to them until they buy, until they die, or they say, please, no thank you, no more. So let me show you something. This here was the very first logo that we ever made in 1999. It was the hardest, most challenging thing we've ever done because it was hand cut 3D, and there's details of the fingernails in there, the earlobe, the hairline, the shirt collar, the wrinkles in the pants, and that's just insanity. To produce that today, now we have software, we have things we could do, but in the day back then, 13 years ago, it was an art form. And the problem was that you needed to get your artist to produce the work on the 5th Thursday with a full moon when his wife was happy. Otherwise, you weren't going to get anything out of the guy. And that was the motivation, because, no offense, just artists are great people, but they're not production people. Everybody, I think, knows that. It's no big secret. And so we had to get away from that, and that's when we started to get into the software, and computers were developing at speeds where you could do things like that. What ended up happening was, this is pretty large. This is Denver Broncos, a piece of furniture, and that was we did corporate boardrooms, corporate furniture, etc., and we were having trouble with suppliers, so we decided to skin the cat a different way and rely on somebody else. So excuse the mess as I throw things around here. And it basically involved into a company that did high-end leather jackets with corporate logos. And I've got some samples here of things that we can do and things that you see. So many times when you see any type of car interior today, whether it's the Laramie on the Dodge Ram logo, if it's Cadillac, if it's Ford, Harley Davidson, Mustang, etc., 90% of the time that's a Permaboss machine that we sold somewhere in North America to a Tier 1, Tier 2 supplier for the automotive companies. And embossing is always raising up. Debossing is stamping down, D for down. All right? So here's a debossing example, and here's an embossing example. And so in my hand, the Hose Tech is an emboss sample. And on the back, forget the sticker, that's just a sticker from a scrap piece of leather, but the deboss has nothing because you're pushing it down with so much heat and pressure that you're forever changing the leather that way. The embossing always has that boss back on the back of it. And the boss back is basically a carrier, a foam, and an adhesive, and when the pressure comes together in the male and female die, that's formed, and that's what holds the image in the leather. Now on the back of leather, it's always inside the lining of a jacket, so it really doesn't make a difference. You don't tear it away or cut it away. Any other interesting samples here? So I don't know what that is. It's just some corporate logo. There's another one there. Now it gets really interesting because as soon as you switch to anything that's this dry wicking material, so I'm wearing something here right now. This one I'm raising up inside the logo, and so I've got the backing in there. If you take a look, it's sitting in here. Okay, dark backing for dark clothing, white boss back for the white clothing. On my chest here, just to give you an example, this is also the dry wicking material, but I've got so much pressure and so much heat working on this garment that when you wash it or take it to a dry cleaner, not that you take a dry wicking to a dry cleaner, it would never change shape again. That's permanently altered. The problem with an air-operated press is the following. You have, let's say, 90 psi. In your car tire you have, I don't know, 30, 32, 28 psi, pounds per square inch. On an air-operated press, you have what's given by your compressor. So if you have a small die and you're pressing down on a couple square inches, you have 90 psi pressing down on that. As the die gets larger to something like, this golfer die, now you've got 300 square inches, but you still only have 90 psi. So the problem is you don't have enough psi to make this kind of intense pressure on the product, which gives it the lasting impression. We have always made hydraulic machines. Hydraulic oil cannot be compressed like air. So when I put in a pressure value, whether it's a little die or a giant die, it goes to exactly that pressure, and the machine goes up to about 1500 psi. So that's like a massive difference between an air-operated press. Second thing is we always rotate, as you've seen in the videos. We don't walk left to right, and we have the heat come down, not the bottom smash into the heat, and we control the pressure. When you would slam the logo with an air-operated type press, nothing wrong, is that it's an air-operated heat transfer press, not an embossing press. That's why I'm making the distinction. I don't have anything against the machines or the people that make them. They're terrific. But here we go and we basically kiss and press and release, because the hydraulic machine is designed to do that squeeze and release, and that's what makes all the difference in the world. And if you notice here, this is the logo, and at the back there's nothing on there. Okay, so that's the front with the logo, and the back there's nothing on there. Now let me just change the angle a little bit if you can see it in the light. Does that make a difference there? So that's the beauty of all the dry wicking stuff. As a decorator, if you're a screen printer, it's not really conducive to all these fibers and weaves, and it's kind of cheap looking for the garment when the garment's rather expensive, especially if it's a high-end dry wicking product, moisture wicking. If the product is embroidery that you're offering, that's another issue, because how many times did you look at these logos and they start to get puckered? And it's funny because when I'm at trade shows and people are wearing their logos, I'll often go behind somebody and grab a picture because they're an embroiderer and their logo's all puckered and looking like that. I go, why would they wear that? It looks terrible. But you want to wear your logo. And that's not your fault, because immediately when you've got the logo that's worked out, you've got the right thread tension, you've got the right stabilization stitches underneath the embroidery, and you put on this shirt, that works fine. You put on the women's shirt and it's a different ball game altogether. So I'll go through this in a minute, but can you take a look at this shirt here? This is like a Celtic logo on a women's dry wicking shirt, and underneath it there's nothing there. So you have nothing to catch on the bra or the undergarment. You have nothing to itch you on the yoke or on the sleeve like you do with embroidery. There's no stiffness of backing, and you've got to have a really wicked technique. And I can't tell you how many times I've met embroiderers. We did, 20 shows this year, and there's a huge percentage of you who avoid that altogether because it's a total nightmare. This is like a polo piqué shirt, and I want to demonstrate the purpose to you. So here you've got, this is a Scotiabank logo. It's embossed because it's raised up. And if you can catch this, When I need to clean it away, I'm just tearing away the backing. Okay? And we make the backing here in Canada because I hated paying 22% duties bringing it in from Europe. And I hated the fact that my customers, when I used to be a distributor, had to buy basically 7 different versions of this. They had 3 different thicknesses in white, 3 different thicknesses in black, and then they had a leather version, thick and thin. Sorry, it's 7. And we made a version that is the one you use 95% of the time. You have the white, you have the black, and the adhesive works for leather and it works for textiles. I know the accountants don't like it because they like to have recurring revenue and get you on the back end for life, but I believe that if you're a manufacturer in Europe, in Canada, in USA, and you have a high labor cost, you have to make the most possible money. So what ends up happening, just tear this away here. This is the cleaning process. This is what the customer would get, and let me just get my fingers in here. By the way, when the president cleans the stuff, it's the most expensive way to clean a garment. So anyways, that's what will be left on the underside. And this here is not only soft, there's no threads or anything stiff, there's no stiff backing, no non-tearaway backing, and it's lighter than the equivalent stitch and embroidery backing, and the first time you wash this it gets even softer, so it's actually very smooth to the skin. The other thing that's unique, if you take a good close look at this here, can you just zoom in for one sec? Do you see little tiny slots in here? See that? This is so important. On our textile and leather version we have the slots, not just because it works for leather, but specifically because that allows the skin to breathe and you sweat less. So if you do a full back logo on a garment, you have breathability because that's what it's all about. So that's thought out, and that's why it's an advantage. You know, I always say we want to support what we do here, and I don't want to be tooting my horn like you know, maybe a union worker in a car factory, but if we don't innovate, if we don't stay smart, if we don't stay ahead of the curve with the innovation, we're not going to be able to do the things, you know, later on. We can't all live off of restaurants. So take a look at this. That's a polar fleece blanket. That's embossing. Why? Because it has the backing on the backside. So it's tone on tone, but it's very, you know, delicate and nice looking. There's another one. So when you're ordering that sample kit for us, you know, we have to make these samples just to show what's out there. Look at that. So the higher quality the fleece, even the better it looks on the material, but the backing does compensate for that. Check this out. There's a hockey team that wins some cups. Toronto hasn't won a cup in 45 years. Shh, don't tell anybody. Hey, but the Toronto team has made the most money. It's a bank in Canada. You seen these? Are they close enough? This is a form of a dry wicking. So here's 2 different versions of it. I'll try and put it in my hand. One is more breathable than the other. You can get that right there. Oops. So this has more loft to it, but the back side there's nothing on it. Why? Because it's the dry wicking. So it's probably one of the cleanest, crispest, fastest ways to decorate clothing in a classy, elegant way. And remember, when you're not doing, I just talked to somebody today who's in a little town in Alaska of 20,000 people. There's 3 embroiders and a couple other screen printers in that town. 20% of his customers are loyal, 80% of his customers are price shoppers. And his question is, what can I do that's different? And these are the answers. You need to do something completely different. So what if you only use the embossing machine for 2 hours a day for the first year? If you're making $300 to $600 an hour when you're touching it, if you do a job of 24 and 36 pieces and you do them in 15 minutes and you made $125, $150, that's how I get to that $300 to $600 an hour. It's very realistic when you hit these numbers. So imagine if you did this job here and you know, one of our customers got a 3,000 piece order for a casino in a town in Michigan. That was an order that the labor cost for the it was $3 a logo, 3,000 pieces. I think it took 17 or 18 hours, and it was $9,000 in revenue in those 18 hours, so 3 days basically. And the labor cost was $224, $250. That's it. That's what you need to do as an embroiderer, as a decorator, as a screen printer. Now here, made one little mistake, is this is the soft shell material. So accidentally, when I had one of the guys do it, he just saw it as the fleece and did it that way. So that's what it looked like on the fleece side. But it's actually a soft shell jacket, and it's a nice alternative to the laser, and a lot cleaner, a lot quicker, and you don't ruin the warranty because you're not breaking through the product. Got that there? So now on this one, notice it's a light colored soft shell, but the inside of the soft shell is very dark. This proves how much pressure there is. So you have to adjust the pressure a little bit to be able to get to the right setting, and we're a little bit high on the pressure, but you can't make a difference here. There's going to be some of the darkness coming through. Oh, here's that fleece on the inside. Just stunning, right? Maybe I'm a little bit partial. This is, these are, I don't know, there's 10, 15 materials here. I'm going to go through them and describe and tell you what it is so you have an idea of what it can do. But this is a Piqué Golf cotton, and it's embossing. And you've got the loft. You've got the backing that's white, and you clear it away. This is just regular fleece, so you know, sweatshirt fleece on a hoodie. That's what it would look like. Gets a bit hard sometimes with different materials like this because it's very light and it's got a kind of a camouflage thing happening to it. I'm not sure how it'll show up on the camera. This is pure cotton t-shirt. That noise there is my dog who comes to the office with me, Maxie, so if you hear, it's not Santa Claus coming, it's her collar. Take a look here, the guitar center. So again, embossing, debossing. This is more or less like a woven sweatshirt material. It's like a heavy jersey cotton, 100% cotton. Remember when we do the dark stuff, we put the black backing, boss back on the backside? Question that comes up, kind of important. A lot of people ask us, will you sell us the boss back? That's what these videos do. Answer is no. Reason why is after all these years, people just want to try and do it on a air operated press with the silicone, and it doesn't work. It's not enough pressure, and then it reflects bad on the backing. Second reason is, if you paid the right money for getting excellent equipment, why should I sell it to your competitor who's avoiding that and trying to circumvent the system by putting out an inferior product? So the answer for any of those who are going to ask because you don't want to buy the machine, don't ask, because the answer is no. I just want to save myself answering those questions all the time, or our reps. This is towel, terry cloth. So a lot of pressure, and the pile on the front of the cloth, on the towel, is very narrow. It's not a big, heavy terry cloth. It's a tight one, and that's what that looks like when you do that. So we tried the white backing and the dark backing, and then again, when you get this is your cleaning process here. That's it. You're done. So it's really quick and easy to clean. And that's the cheapest part, right? You want turnover, and you don't want to tie up your needles. You don't want to have stuff in a hoop. You don't want to spend a lot of time. You need to hit it and go. This is basically like a dress shirt material. So we tried the white and the black, and I would choose at the very bottom, we used the white one because the white one didn't let any color come through and the material is very thin. But this client is a very successful client, has all the toys and bells and whistles, is known for that. But smart enough to send us a whole range of materials to test so that he's completely confident in the things it can do. So I thought I'd share that with you. Why not, if we spend the time to decorate it. Here's dry wicking again. Very easy, very subtle, very quick. Oh, and just proof, there's nothing on the back. And it won't wash out. It'll last for life. Same thing over here. Nothing on the back. And this one, if you look through it, it's extremely see-through. So this would be total nightmare to embroider because it's so thin and there's no substance there. There's nothing of body to hold that thread. So if you did embroider this, I absolutely 100% unequivocally guarantee you within one wash it'll start to pucker, and that reflects on your ability to embroider. And it's really not your fault. It's the fact that the thread behaves different than this material. It's so thin and it looks like crap, but guess who's going to get blamed? You are. This is polar fleece. So the difference is polar fleece is the thicker, heavier, rougher, maybe sometimes feeling a bit cheaper. And the micro fleece is the nice tight one. This is the polar fleece here. Okay, so here there's a couple heat marks because we're setting up. As soon as we got it set up, we work away from that, and that's fine when we're doing the samples. We need to try things at different temperature, etc. We teach you the techniques on how not to make a mistake, and you can always have a piece of scrap to set up before you hit. This is a navy blue cotton piqué. Again, the stuff's on the back, so use the dark one. This here is, it's almost like a tablecloth linen. I don't think it's a shirt. If it is, it's a linen type shirt. It's very strong, very heavy. It would tear. Yeah, it doesn't even tear. So I don't know what it is, but I would say it's like a high-end linen tablecloth. This here is the shirt that if you wear this, they know you came from the 80s, I guess. I don't know. It's a striped material. It looks more like a curtain from the 70s, if you ask me. So, but it came out just fine. And can you just zoom in here? Can you see the loft to this? You've got something that's interesting that customers say, where'd you get that? Oh, I love that, because their logo pops out in a very subtle, elegant way because it's three-dimensional now. And ask yourself, how much tone-on-tone embroidery are you doing? Here's just a thin, tightly woven cotton t-shirt, not like a heavy jersey, but a good quality one. Again, on the lighter color, I'll use the lighter backing. The white, you're almost always pretty much safe. This denim is already washed, but if you use it on a newer denim like this here, and then as you wash it, it gets more unique. So if you wash your jacket once a week, and that person washes it once a month, and that person washes it once a year, then you're going to have a completely different look on each piece. That was a customer from Florida in the day. Again, so that's why this is very subtle, and when you wash this, it's almost disappearing, and in certain lights it shows up, and in certain light it disappears. This is more like a very fine woman's cotton product. Again, the white backing on the back. This is a beige dress shirt, kind of something you'd buy at TJ Maxx, Marshalls, or Neiman Marcus. So it's literally a dress shirt for a uniform. It's not as nice because this material has no give. There's no flexibility in it, so it's not preferred, not my favorite. And then this is regular cotton jersey. So what we'll do is we'll break on this video right now, and then I'll go back into making one more and just go through the samples that are on the racks around here and then call it a day, okay? Thanks.